everyone, welcome to English and More. I am Shweta Roy, your English teacher, and I am back again with yet another chapter, which is From Your Flamingo. Yes, it's a poem by Robert Frost. In your previous grades, you have already read quite a number of poems by Robert Frost, by the same poet. So here I am going to talk about his another very beautiful and thought-provoking poem, A Roadside Stand. So let us delve into the poem without further ado. But before we start off, guys, please make sure that you have hit the like button, shared the video with your friends, and definitely please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And on that note, I am very happy and delighted to announce that we are now a family of 1,000 subscribers. So thank you so much for all your support. I am really grateful, and I thank each and every member of this family from all my heart. So guys, this is just this is the foundation step, and definitely we are yet to achieve a lot, right? So please do support this channel, and definitely I will be coming up with all the lectures only and only for you guys. So let us begin with A Roadside Stand. Okay, so first we will talk a little bit about the poet. We are already familiar with the poet Robert Frost. He is an American poet, and he has written poetry using nature as a symbol that we have already done in our previous grades. And he is definitely a poet of 20th century, so definitely a modern poet. He has written poetry using simple characters, people, and landscapes. But his poems definitely have deep philosophical thought. Okay, so his poems are concerned with human tragedies and fears, his reaction to the complexities of life, and his ultimate acceptance of his burdens. So yes, that is an important point. His poetry is about complexities of human life, but of course the language that he uses is quite simple and easily comprehensible. Stopping by woods on a snowy evening, birches, mending walls are a few of his well-known poems. Especially Stopping by woods on a snowy evening, we are all so familiar with those lines, miles to go before I sleep, miles to go before I sleep, isn't it? We all have heard, and we have also used it in our we have used it in our day-to-day conversation, or when we have to write any speech. So this is an oft quoted line basically, right? So yes, those are very deep and meaningful lines, and oft quoted lines by, of course, our own Robert Frost. So a roadside stand, in this poem, Frost presents the lives of the poor, the deprived, with pitiless clarity and with the deepest sympathy and humanity. So what we get from this poem is the poet's empathy for the poor, the deprived. So now let us read the poem. But before we read, let us look at what the poet wants us to think about. So a roadside stand, the name itself, the title itself suggests that it is going to talk about the observations, okay, of the poet in a roadside stand. So have you ever stopped on a roadside stand? Just think about it, guys. When you travel, I'm sure most of us love traveling. We travel a lot. If yes, then quickly let me know in the comment section. While traveling, have you stopped by on a roadside stand? If yes, what was the reason, and what were your observations on that roadside stand when you stopped? Once you have written the comment in the comment section, now let us read what the poet has to talk about, right? So let us go through the poem. I would be going through the poem stanza by stanza, right? And I would be explaining. So first let us understand the main focus of the poem. Now this poem deals with the consequence of urbanization and the impact of urbanization that is there on the people of the countryside. So you can see two sections: urbanization, that is of course the city life, and the countryside, that is the rural life. So it shows the clear picture of the rich versus the poor, the urban versus the rural, right? And the dependence that the poor have on the charity of the rich, the haves and the have-nots, as the Marxists would call it. However, the poem also represents the uncaring nature of the city dwellers. Yes, so the caring, the selfish, the careless attitude of the city dwellers, and the struggles thus faced by the people who are living in the countryside, who are living in the less urbanized areas. So these are the focal points of this particular poem, A Roadside Stand. Point to be noted that this was first published in June 1936, in the June 1936 issue of the Atlantic Monthly, before being collected in a further range with the subtitle, note the subtitle, On Being Put Out of Our Misery. Note the subtitle. You can include these in your answers when you write. Another important point to be noted, Frost at one time had considered the title Euthanasia for the poem. Yes, so this was also a title which the poet had once considered, but then he gave up the idea. So why did he consider this title? That also we will come to know while we read through the poem, right? A Roadside Stand is another quarrel over modernization. So yes, it is talking about modernization. It is a critical analysis of modernization and urbanization. So he resists contemporary encroachment here, as he does in other poems also. For example, in his poems, please read these are the poems suggested for your further reading. Okay, lines written in dejection on the eve of great success. Here he has talked about the United States space program. So please go through this poem. You will find a lot of material where you can cross refer, right? And the Ling Gang, which is about the telephone. So what is the common theme? The common theme is contemporary encroachment, which Frost is resisting, which is found in these two poems also, and which we will find in this particular poem also. So these poems are suggested for your further reading. Go and do read. Okay, now let us start with the first few lines of the poem, the first stanza. The little old house was out with a little new shed in front at the edge of the road where the traffic sped. A roadside stand that too pathetically pled. Note the alliteration here. It would not be fair to say for a dole of bread, but for some of the money, the cash, whose flow supports the flower of cities from sinking and withering faint. So here the poet is talking about the little old house which had a little new shed. So obviously it is the house of a farmer. Okay, in front at the edge of the road, and in front of the edge of that road he is describing the traffic, the speeding traffic, okay, the rushing traffic. Now in that, so there's a contrast, the speeding traffic, the urbanization, the people who are always busy, okay, in the humdrum of the city life. In contrast to that, a little old house with a shed and a roadside stand which was pleading, pathetically pleading. The condition is pathetic, pitiful condition. Okay, now why is it pleading? It would not be fair to say for a dole of bread. So it's not pleading for a piece of bread, but for some money, the cash. Definitely it is pleading for some money whose flow supports the flower of cities. So the which cash from whom? Whose flow supports the flower of cities, which means Yes, it is the elite class. Okay, the flower of cities from sinking and withering faint. Now let us understand. The roadside stand is a sad symbol of of a past that is fading rapidly. That is it is of course talking about the farmer. So agricultural prosperity, the decline of agricultural prosperity, because here the farmer is shown to be pleading. So yes, he's not prosperous. Okay, the roadside farm stands the roadside farm stand is characterized as a person selling berries. He's almost pleading. Why is he pleading? He wants people to buy. Okay, who are all rushing past, speeding vehicles. Okay, with the people who drive to make a purchase. The poem begins with a little new shed and traffic speeding by. I told you the contrast. The folks at the stand are hopeful. So definitely when he has put a stand, he is hopeful. He is hopeful for what? That somebody would stop by and buy. Right? Of the cash whose flow supports the flower of cities from sinking and withering faint. That means it will be spent on the goods at the stand. The comparison of fueling the growth of a city to keeping a flower from withering. So there is a comparison. Okay, what is the comparison? The growth of the city. The growth of the city. How is it growing? How is it growing? It is growing because of the inflow of cash, right? To keeping a flower from withering. So how will you keep a flower from withering? Obviously you need to nourish it, you need to nurture it, right? So it demonstrates that the speaker or the farmer, he draws analogy to nature and not industry to make his points, because he's talking about flowers. So why is he talking about flower? Because he wants to highlight nature. He wants to highlight how we have moved away from nature. He's talking about the agricultural decline. That is the reason why his analogies are from nature and not from industry. So he is here comparing the growth of the city, the fueling of the growth of the city, the fuel needed for the growth of the city, to nourishing the flowers and keeping it away from withering, right? So these are the word meanings. Dole is a charitable gift of food, clothes or money. It's a charity, like charitable gift that is not earned. It's not earned. It is charity when people give you. It's like begging. Okay. Pleading, I think you all know. Withering is fading. Faint is lacking conviction or enthusiasm. Now the flower of cities juxtaposes the characteristic of the natural countryside with the city life. I told you that there is a contrast. Flower of cities, the natural, flower is associated with something natural, but city is something which is industrial, so artificial. So it is juxtaposed, it is contrasting. The flower requires care and support for its growth. You have to nourish it. That is used as a metaphor because it is a comparison. Okay. For the development of industry and urbanization, the flower that requires care and support for its growth is used as a metaphor for the development of industry and urbanization. Nature, which was highly valued before industrialization, now plays a secondary role to the growth of the city. So decline of agriculture. With the decline of agriculture, moving away from nature and highlighting the modernization. So what has modernization and urbanization done? Taken us away from the nature. The farmer is pleading for people to buy his goods. The contrast is used in the very first line. The little old house, a little new shed. It is shown that the house had been there for a long time, and can mean that the shed is either brand new or refurbished. Little new shed. So note the word new. It is either brand new or it has been refurbished. That means the farmers are forced to find sources of revenue, and the shed could be brand new, or else they have shifted their location, so they have refurbished. Okay, So the farmers are forced to find new sources of revenue and turn to selling their products using roadside stand. So that is the first stanza. I hope this is clear, right? So yes, it is talking about, point to be noted, it's talking about the decline of agriculture. It's talking about how the farmers are pleading for what? Pleading for yes, basically urging people who are, you know, going past to buy their materials, right? And of course it is talking about how, you know, the shed, uh, because they have used the word new shed, little old house, little new shed, right? So now the farmers are forced to find new source of revenue. So new, they are changing, okay, it's temporary because they don't have any stability. So agricultural prosperity is declining. Next, the polished traffic passed with a mind ahead, or if ever aside a moment, then out of sorts at having the landscape marred with the artless paint of signs that with N turned wrong and S turned wrong, offered for sale wild berries in wooden quarts. This is the item that the farmer is selling. Or crook-necked golden squash with silver warts, or beauty rest in a beautiful mountain scene. You have the money, but if you want to be mean, why keep your money this crossly? So that is the, okay, I'll explain. This crossly and go along. So what is the poet trying to tell you? Marred is spoiled and quartz means vessels. Okay. Now outside on the road, the traffic was polished. Polished again talks about the elite society. That's a symbol used to suggest that those who are traveling by that car, the polished and the shining car, it is definitely talking about the high class. They are rich. What do? They pass by intending to go somewhere else, but they never stop by and pay attention on the stalls that are on the way. That is why I told you at the beginning of the class, think when you go on a drive, have you ever stopped by, when you have gone for a drive, have you ever stopped by a stall on your way? If yes, why? If no, why not? Right? However, when they do pay attention to what is around them, it is not with gratitude or acceptance. Instead, what do? They lament. Why are they lamenting? Because they think that the scenery is ruined by these roadside stand. So when they are traveling, they want beautiful scenery on their way. But what is marring or ruining their scenery? These shabby and ugly looking roadside stand. And see the old battered sign, the N and the S which we had seen here. See, of signs that with N turned wrong and S turned wrong. So the signs are shabby and they are not at all precise. Okay, so they are ruined, they are old, they are battered. They criticize about remorse. They criticize without remorse, as they do not think about the people who cannot afford to fix their signs. So they have seen the beauty being spoiled, they have seen the signs which are old and battered, but have they ever thought the reason as to why they are old and battered? Have they ever thought about the people who are there on the roadside stand who are not able to fix those battered signs? That is revealing their struggle, that is revealing how financially weak they are, right? So they are not able to fix they cannot afford that, and they are also ignoring the product of their sale. So the farmers are selling their berries, their vegetables, okay, and they do whatever, and some cases also their art. So that means it suggests that they do whatever they can to find sources of revenue, which I told you, new shed. So alternative sources keep changing, okay. And this combined with the deteriorating signs which we have seen, S turned wrong, N turned wrong, show that the people are reaching a state of desperation. Important point. The rich that pass, they have the money, but they don't have the time and the mind to spend on these little things, right? They are more miserly than forthcoming. They are selfish. They don't think. The interjection of this crossly. Now this crossly is an interjection. Why has the poet included this? He has also included this towards the end of the poem. That shows the response of the rich that drive by lack of any sort of elegance and politeness. So they might be rich because they have a lot of money, but they are poor by their thoughts and by their mentality. They lack politeness. In fact, they are rude. Okay, and as they place more value on the beauty of the scenery, and they think that the roadside stand is marring the scenery, which is definitely the hypocrisy. It's just the hypocrisy of the elite class, the industrial class. They destroy nature. On the one hand, why is it hypocrisy? Because on the one hand, it is because of the industrialization and urbanization that they are moving away from nature, and they are blaming on the people who are closer to nature, who are actually in the more connected to nature, to mar the scenery, right? So this is hypocrisy, as the industrial cities destroy nature in order to grow, and thus they have no basis to lament about a slight break in the beauty of the countryside. This is important point to be noted. Next, to hurt to the scenery wouldn't be my complaint so much as the trusting sorrow of what is unsaid. Here, far from the city, we make our roadside stand and ask for some city money to feel in hand, to try if it will not make our being expand and give us the life of the moving pictures promise that the party in power is said to be keeping from us. It is in the news that all these pitiful kin are to be brought out and mercifully gathered in to live in villages next to the theatre and the store, where they won't have to think for themselves anymore, while greedy, good doers, beneficent beasts of prey swarm over their lives, enforcing benefits that are calculated to soothe them out of their wits, and by teaching them how to sleep, they sleep all day, destroy their sleeping at night the ancient way. Okay, a long stanza. Let me go line by line. Now the poet watches this unfold, and he does not bemoan, he does not complain about the lack of scenery. Instead, he thinks about the situation of those who are forced to depend on the roadside stand and the sorrows, which is of course in sharp contrast to the speeding vehicles and the people who are driving those vehicles. They live far away from the clusters of people in the city and set up a stall to earn money. Who? These people who are setting up the stand. They ask simply to feel a connection with the rest of the world, for some city money to feel in hand. So they just want some money to make them survive. This money that can be so easily given by those people who are passing by. So they can easily afford. They just need the right mindset and the thought, but they are not having that thought. But this small help would make a significant impact on the life of these sellers, and let them dream about the kind of lives that are shown in the movies. So this would impact their lives to a great extent, and they would be able to, the sellers, they would be able to dream about a kind of life which are shown in movies, in the pictures. They have heard that the powerful people are the ones who represent the cities and make the decisions. They are sidelining the farmers knowingly. So this sort of life, the luxurious life, the life of comfort, is kept away from them, from the sellers. And the sellers have dreams and promises for a more comfortable and luxurious life. They dream of their life, and who can fulfill their dream? It is the people who are driving past, who don't have the mindset at all, right? The farmers realize that all these people are gathered together in one place, and they live lives that take all the thinking out of the equation. The farmers refer to these people as pitiful kin. Who the farmers are referring to these people, the the elite class who are thoughtless. Okay, why? Because though they may have physically more comfortable lives, but it slowly saps away their mental acuity. They might have all the luxuries and comforts in their life, but mental acuity is not there. They live in places where everything is easily accessible, and again it is a condemnation of urbanization. Yes, from the poet's side, all the benefits of the modernized world involve removing the man from humanity, because they don't have the heart. That is the reason why they are speeding past, and they are not stopping by to even give a thought. So although they have the luxuries, they have the comforts, they don't have the heart. They are away from humanity. They don't have the feelings, they don't sympathize, they don't empathize. That is why they are pitiful. Okay, so they are just mindless machines. They are working like mindless machines. Again, they are responsible. They are identified, very satirically, as the good doers, not the do-gooders. Good doers. Okay, and the beneficent beasts of prey. Here you have alliteration as well, right? So they are the beneficent beasts of prey. Okay, next is, sometimes I feel myself I can hardly bear the thought of so much childish longing in vain. The sadness that lurks near the open window there, that waits all day in almost open prayer for the sequel of brakes, the sound of stopping car, of the thousand selfish cars that pass, just one to inquire what a farmer's prices are. And one did stop, but only to plough up grass, in using the yard to back and turn around, and another to ask the way to where it was bound, and another to ask could they sell it a gallon of gas. They couldn't, this crossly, they had none, didn't it see? So what is the farmer trying to say? These are the meanings. Squeal is high-pitched cry or noise, and plow up is to move in a fast manner. So here the poet is empathizing with the farmer. Okay, the poet cannot even handle the thought of living a life of such deep longing, and a yearning which can never be fulfilled. See, the speaker can hardly bear the thought of so much childish longing. What is the longing? The yearning is for a sense of recognition, a sense of accomplishment, and relief of earning the day's bread. So how will they get the relief of earning the day's bread? Only when those people stop by and buy their goods. But that is not happening. That is why it is a childish longing which is not being fulfilled. The farmers are spending the day with eyes and ears perked, waiting for the car, that eternal wait that stops to buy something, praying for a sale and some profit. Still the cars, they pass and they don't stop. They are called selfish. They think only of themselves, and their stops are for self-serving reasons. Even when one or two stops, they are not stopping for buying anything. They are stopping for their selfish reason. The farmer wants a car to stop at least once and ask the price of goods at least. But the cars that stop do not use the space. They stop. Even if they stop, they are stopping for their reasons. They do so to use the space to make a turn. So either they want to make a turn, that's why they are stopping, or else they want to ask the direction. That is why they are stopping. Think about your real life experiences also. Do we also do that? Do we also stop? Even if we stop at these roadside stands, do we also stop for the same reasons? Or have we ever thought about the person who's there? and the longings of that person. What does that person think? How is he earning? Can we help in some way? Have we ever thought? So this poem is for you to think about it. It is a thought-provoking poem, right? So they ask for fuel. Some also ask for, silly things which actually doesn't make much sense, because they are asking for fuel. Of course, a farmer will not sell fuel, right? So day in and day out, it's just a charade. It's just appearance. It's an appearance that the farmer is forced to participate in. It's a charade. Okay, it's an act which the farmer is participating in, hoping that that entire process of setting up that stall, on a roadside stand, hoping all that is just a show put up. It's like it becomes a show put up because nobody stops, right? And then crossly again is repeated. The interjection, I told you it would be repeated, but in this case it is the reference to the sellers. In the previous case it was the reference to the city, people who were passing by. In this case it is referring to the farmers. Okay, the anger is in response to the obviously nonsensical requests that is made to them, in the total ignorance of their actual produce. The rich don't care about them and the poor are angry. Obviously the reaction is anger. A place that sells berry clearly will not sell fuel, and it is crazy to ask for this, right? So this is definitely infuriating. On one hand, they are waiting for such a long time for somebody to ask for their produce, and even if one car stops, it is asking for a silly thing which the farmer obviously will not have, right? No, in country money, the country scale of gain, the requisite lift of spirit has never been found. Or so the voice of the country seems to complain. I can't help owning the great relief it would be to put these people at one stroke out of their pain. This is the reason why he had considered the title Euthanasia earlier. Okay, and then next day as I came back into the Seine, I wonder how I should like you to come to me and offer to put me gently out of my pain. So putting out of the pain at one stroke, that's the reason. Requisite is of course mandatory or imperative. Stroke is moving your hand slowly, and okay, right. So now the countryside never earned profits that they needed or they deserved. They never felt the strong connection between them and the faraway cities, which is quite true. Okay, and their spirits remained dampened and solitary, alone. The poet felt as though he could hear the countryside complaining loud and clear, saying that they have not been able to achieve what they really need. The poor are left to get poorer, and the rich pass by in their comfort. So the wide gap between the rich and the poor, the deepening gap between the haves and the have-nots. So the speaker can hardly bear the thought of this longing vein, right? And yes, so as I told you, the reason of putting the thinking about the title as Euthanasia was this line: resolves that he could be relieved. So the requisite lift of spirit that has never been found, and resolve that he would be relieved to put these people at one stroke of their pain. So that is the reason why he had considered the title. So knowing this, the poet wonders whether it would be better to take all these people out of their tangible misery. They are having a miserable life. So the poet is trying to empathize and think whether these people can be taken out of their misery and they can be given eternal relief from their suffering, right? So he wonders whether mercy killing, euthanasia, was ethical in this situation, and whether this painless process would benefit them far more than the pain they feel, because they are already feeling pain each and every moment of their life. So it is better to remove their pain all at once, right? However, after some thought, he again puts him in the same situation. He asks a profound question to himself, whether he would appreciate being taken out of this world by someone else. So initially he thinks whether he could put these people out of their pain all at once, but then he again thinks, he reconsiders, he thinks whether he would like some other person, to take him away. Okay, he wonders what he would think if somebody offers him to painlessly kill him, whether he would be appreciating that, right? The poem ends with this question left open, prompting the reader to think. So you have to think whether the poet would want, so if you place yourself in the shoes, if you empathize with the farmers, and in this case the poet is an advocate of the farmers, so putting yourself in the shoes, think whether, even if you are at pain, even if somebody is at pain each and every day, would that person prefer somebody else to take the charge and put an end to the pain all at once, right? The tone definitely is pitiful, and the knowledge that such an offer will not be appreciated, as life is more valuable than a release from suffering. Yes, so life is valuable. So he is like lastly posing a question towards the end, right? So that is something which is important for us also to consider. Although struggles are common for each one of us, we suffer, everybody suffers, that is, everybody have their highs and low, everybody has their high and low, but is it appreciable to put an end to all of this all at once, which he had considered earlier, right? So the theme of this poem is definitely the poet's request to think, right? For us to think for the helplessly low individual who work tirelessly, but their lives are so miserable without any advancement. So he communicates his torment as their pity and distress, and looks for help and elevation for them. He trusts that somebody would definitely work unselfishly for restoration and not misuse them. He draws out the contrast between the rich and the poor, the wealthy and the poor, with the clarity, yes. So with hard heart and clearness and humankind, and implies the monetary prosperity of a nation definitely is upon a fair advancement of town and communities, but definitely the artist or the poet profoundly identifies with these devastated individuals, that is the farmers, who are an important part of the society, and he is empathizing with them. So this is the compassionate plea for from the poet to all of us, that we need to think about these poor people. We cannot be so thoughtless and so selfish. Now coming to the literary devices, one is polished traffic, that is a transferred epithet. So what is a transferred epithet? When epithet is basically an adjective, transferred because it is transferred from one noun to the other. So the polished is the adjective which has been transferred from one noun to the other, that is traffic. It has been transferred to traffic. Okay, and selfish, cars. The cars are of course not selfish, the people driving the car, they are selfish. So yes, transferred from one noun to the other. Next we have personification. A roadside stand that too pathetically pled. There is an alliteration also along with that. Pathetically pleading, roadside stand is an inanimate object. It is being personified, showing human qualities. Metaphor is trusting sorrow. That is a metaphor. Comparison without using as or like. And then we have oxymoron and alliteration, I have already talked about. Oxymoron is greedy good doers and beneficent beast. Beasts and beneficent both are, both are opposites, but they are just opposed together. Then greedy good doers, if somebody is good, doing good, he cannot be greedy. Both are, opposites placed together, just opposed together, right? So these are the common poetic devices. If you have found out any other poetic devices which you would like to highlight, please let me know in the comment section. So that was the poem. It is a long poem, of course, and it's a little complicated poem, but I hope you have understood the basic theme of this poem. If you have any questions further, if you have not understood any particular line, you can please let me know in the comment section, and all your doubts would be clarified then and there. So before we bid goodbye to each other, make sure that you have liked the video, you have shared it with your friends, and please don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye bye. See you again in the next session.